Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee. I would make any bets about that. The party that gets rid of their 80-year-old candidate is the party that's going to win. Who do you think
will be the Democratic nominee?
Well, I've said there's going to be a female president of the United States. It will either be me or it will be Kamala Harris. And if Donald Trump is the nominee, mark my words, we will see a President Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period. You don't have to agree with Trump 100% of the time to vote for.
All right, my friends, J.R. Dukes at your service. Appreciate each and every one of you taking time to join me today. And of course, that is Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor, and also she was the former ambassador under the Trump administration to the United Nations. We have to talk today about Nikki Haley. Remember, she once was a figure who stood firmly side by side with former President Donald Trump, only to turn around and hurl attacks at him when it was convenient for Nikki Haley. During her campaign for the Republican nomination, Nikki Haley always branded Donald Trump as the candidate of chaos. She even went so far to predict that if Donald Trump was the Republican nominee, Kamala Harris would be the president. She repeatedly emphasized that, hey, whichever party gets rid of their 80-year-old candidate, that's going to be the party that wins the president. But here's the kicker. At the Republican National Convention, Nikki Haley gave a full-throat endorsement of Donald Trump as the nominee. Now, if you've listened to my prior videos, you know that I have had serious reservations about Nikki Haley for quite some time. After dropping out of the Republican race, she did not rush to give Donald Trump the normal respect, the normal customary endorsement that you generally give the person that you're running against. This was unlike Governor DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who ran very hard against former President Donald Trump. And listen, I get it. I realize these people are not happy when they lose, especially when they lose to someone they think they can do a better job. I get it when someone runs hard and passionately for an office and then all of a sudden, hey, they lose. I get it. It's really difficult to endorse your competition, but that's the name of the game. That's the way the rules are. That's exactly what Governor DeSantis of Florida did for Donald Trump and other competitors of Donald Trump for the nomination. They weren't happy, but they all ended up giving a full endorsement to Donald Trump. This is very disappointing, especially when you consider that former President Donald Trump gave Nikki Haley the ambassador position to the United Nations to represent the United States. She turned on her former boss after giving her word not to run against him, and then only to run her campaign against Donald Trump by attacking him on superficial grounds like age, how old he was he too old? Of course, calling him the candidate of chaos. Her actions were both disingenuous and very troubling. And let's be honest about this, folks. Haley's supposed surge in the polls and her supposed doing a very fantastic job and really beating the tar out of Donald Trump, that was not necessarily true. At least it was not the whole truth. There was only 2 states like Vermont and New Hampshire that she did favorably in. And the reason she did so well, if I could use that word, the reality is much of the support that Nikki Haley had was because those states have what's called open primaries. And in an effort to embarrass, harass, and cause problems for former President Donald Trump, you had Democratic voters, what the mainstream press called independents, cross over from the Democratic side to the Republican side to vote in that primary. And it was nothing more than an attempt to harass and embarrass former President Donald Trump. Much of her so-called backing in states like Vermont and New Hampshire came from Democrats crossing party lines in open primaries to embarrass Trump. And at least in my mind, I cannot forget her constant reference to saying something like, oh, I defeated those fellows. I only got one more fellow to beat. Having to hear that from her, at least in my mind, was extremely painful to my ears. It just sounded wrong. It didn't sound professional. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Instead of discussing policies or policy differences they may have, she chose to attack Donald Trump by all means that she had in her ability to do so. She chose to ignore that the so-called chaos that Donald Trump was allegedly creating, remember, the candidate of chaos, whatever that means, it wasn't brought because of Donald Trump. This was a result of these woke, liberal, radical Democrats using lawfare to hammer Donald Trump. That was the reason there was any chaos. There was chaos because Donald Trump was fighting for you and fighting for me. Donald Trump was unwilling to roll over and let these people just beat the tar out of him without fighting back. He was not going to go quietly into that good night. He fought back, and he fought back for you and for me. But none of this mattered to Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley continued to call Donald Trump this chaos candidate and predicting that he was going to lose. She didn't just talk about their policy differences or just act like a normal competitor would act like. She went after Donald Trump to the extent where she had the potential to cause lasting damage to his ability to win a general election.
Former presidential candidate, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. Governor, thanks for being here.
No, it's great to be with you.
You know, when you talk to somebody about that evolution, obviously you're running for president in one and you're endorsing the former president at the RNC in another. How do you explain that, and where do you see it right now?
Well, if I thought Donald Trump and Joe Biden were the best candidates, I wouldn't have run. I ran because I thought I could do a better job. I ran because I really cared about the next generation, what was going to happen, and all of the issues that I talked about on the campaign trail. But we are where we are. I am a voter, too. I have to make a choice. And when I look at the issues and I look at the differences between the two candidates we've been given, there's no question that I want to see Donald Trump win this election, because we can't have a Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I mean, all you have to do is look at what Kamala Harris has said. She doesn't think illegal immigrants are illegal. She thinks that we should give them free education, free place to live, free health care. Tim Walz thinks socialism is neighborly, and he's gone a step further and thinks we should give them free tuition. They want to raise taxes. You look at everything that's happened with our economy already. We can't afford that. More than anything, from a national security perspective, you can't go to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who have not had the foreign policy experience. And the experience they do have is that they want to expand the Iran deal and give more money to a terrorist organization that says death to America. There's a lot of differences there. We are where we are. And right now, for me, for my family, for those that I love, and as a voter, I think we need to hope that Donald Trump wins this election.
As Nikki Haley continued this conversation with the Fox News moderator, she claims she ran because she thought she could do a better job and because of her concern for the next generation. But this explanation does not sit right with me, folks. It reeks of outright lies. A person who values their word should stick by it. And let's be clear about this. Nikki Haley's decision to run against Donald Trump was an outright betrayal of her word to President Donald Trump. It wasn't about her ability to lead. It was about her quest for power. It was about her getting her name in the history book. It was about her having her name tied with being the first woman president of the United States. It was about her willingness to turn on someone who trusted her. Now, having said this, despite my many disagreements with Nikki Haley, I can't ignore the valid points she made during this interview. I am glad that she came around and eventually went ahead and endorsed former President Donald Trump. And I'm very happy that she clearly pointed out the very serious and grave risks we're all taking if this administration actually wins and Kamala Harris becomes the president. To be straight about this, folks, this Democratic ticket, the most liberal, woke, radical ticket ever to be on a presidential ticket in the United States of America. It is truly shocking what they stand for. It's truly shocking what they're trying to do to our country. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, her running mate, represent a very real threat to our country. They both represent an extremely radical platform that is nothing short of a nightmare for America. Let's break down a few things that they are proposing. As you may know by watching my previous videos, Harris, along with Biden, allowed, authorized, and passed into law in excess of 81,000 new IRS agents to hit the streets to go after each and every one of us. It's funny how she just got done copying Donald Trump's proposal to have no taxes on tips tips whatsoever. And yet she is responsible for putting out another 81,000 plus IRS agents to go after individuals who make tips. These agents will not be going after the wealthy elite. They'll be going after ordinary Americans, the backbone of our country, with audits and lots of red tape and lots of expense in the form of accountants for just regular working people. And of course, Kamala Harris is all about and is for open borders. She has failed as our border czar. That's really a joke when you think about it. Her administration supports policies that would completely open our borders. This would allow anyone and everyone, including criminals, to simply come across the border and into our country. This isn't about compassion. This is about creating chaos, stretching our resources, and putting our national security at risk. The radical left wants to take our hard-earned tax dollars and effectively give them to illegals, give them to migrants in the form of health care, food, housing. And as she's taking care of all these illegal immigrants, we have people in our own country who are suffering. They can't afford food. They can't afford their own homes. And we have to take a minute and talk about the absurdity of having tampons in the boys' bathrooms in the state of Minnesota. These are policies that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz would mandate all across America. These are the kind of social engineering policies that Kamala Harris, Tim Walz wants to bring all across America. You talk about weird? They're the ones that came up with this weird word, right? That's what I call weird, ladies and gentlemen. These policies defy common sense and only serve to please the far left end of their own party. They want to ban fracking and they want to pass that so-called Green New scam. The Green New Deal. Despite what she may say now, Harris wants to ban fracking, oil exploration, and drilling for oil offshore. This would decimate our energy sector and would skyrocket the cost of gasoline for ordinary Americans. You think inflation is bad now? Just wait, God forbid, when Kamala Harris and her new partner take over the presidency. Her support and her promise to cram through this Green New Deal is a one-way ticket to economic disaster, leading to skyrocketing taxes, lost jobs, and a collapsing economy. If Kamala Harris and her radical left-end agenda take over the White House, we're looking at an economy on the brink of collapse, taxes through the roof, and foreign policy that could lead us into World War III. Their weak and feckless actions on the world stage only serve to invite aggression and instability. It only puts America and our allies at grave risk. Nikki Haley's betrayal of Donald Trump and her weak justification for breaking her word to Donald Trump only serve to highlight the real dangers that we face right here in America. As free-minded individuals, as free-minded thinkers, what I try to always encourage us to be on this channel, we need to rally behind the one leader who always puts America first, and that person is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the only candidate strong enough and able to remove this necklace, this albatross that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has put around each and every one of our necks. I firmly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that Donald Trump can lead us back to a path of a secure, stable, and prosperous future. Do you agree or disagree with me? Please, I want to know. Put it in the comments below. Folks, I appreciate you taking time to be with me today. If you're still with me, might as well hit the thumbs up button. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe. If you have an indoctrinated friend, family member suffering the terrible disease of indoctrination, please share this video with them. We need to free their mind. We need to get them the right information. We need to empower everyone so they can make an informed choice. Make no mistake about it. This election coming up is the most consequential election in our lifetime. That's not rhetoric. That is the truth. We need to make sure that we do everything we can to get Donald Trump elected as president of the United States once again. I always like to say, keep that mind free, never give up. Until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Dukes.